sort of agenda or that questions the first time?
I think it came from me, but what I'll do is I'll just remind you what they are. So we'll go through them. I won't let you battle. I think what we start off with is just number one, to say thank you for your time and your effort. Thank you very, very much. Number two is just a short bit about yourself, where you come from, what's your hobbies and so forth, just so that we all know you when we put you on YouTube.
Sure. Okay, so yeah, Sandro, I've been around, I've been in the game for 30 years. PILOT actually celebrated its 30th year this year during the lockdown period. So I've been, my background was, I studied sales and marketing management, joined my father early on in an engineering jobbing shop. Somehow we got into crushing. It's another long story, which we won't have time for, but we got into crushing, building VSRs originally. Then we decided we needed to expand it, and we became the official distributors for Finley, made a great success of that, made some changes, and we just grew and became, I think, hopefully one of the 3 professionals and players. And I think we've made a great contribution to the industry in both aggregate and mining. And yeah, so background from sales and marketing into hopefully and possibly a leader in our industry in terms of the equipment that gets sold in the country. Personally, I think hobbies, I enjoy playing golf. Unfortunately, the last year or two hasn't been conducive to allowing me much time for it. So I play as much as I can, but it's probably works out to maybe this year certainly once a month, maybe 1.5 times a month on average. And other than that, the hobbies have mostly been around work, and growing the business and handling what has to be done. Yeah, I've a wife and a son and a stepson, and one's studying overseas, one has worked for me for a while and has gone to do his own thing. He's a passionate trader of all of these modern things called cryptocurrencies and futures and derivatives. I don't even know all these terms, but he seems to be enjoying that and fairly successful at it. So hopefully he'll help me retire and maybe look after my investments anyway.
Great. Yeah, I remember many years ago we went to Germany to the show there, the big show, and you guys were still small and started off, and you've grown in the last 15 years. Unbelievable how you've grown your company. So you're a leader, you're a star, and it's great to have you. Yeah.
I think we've always had a good team, and we've always been, I think a lot of our growth into diverse markets has come from our sales team and seeing the challenges some of the industries have and then finding solutions for it. So certainly our own product line is very much based on developments that come from the field. People have a problem, we go and try and design something to suit that problem, and then it becomes a standard in our portfolio. And it's quite a lot of firsts, I think. Can think of the Twister track was the very first track-mounted VSI in the world. Still probably the best in the world, and still a strong seller, mostly exported, and many other product lines.
That's fantastic. Yes, I was saying this morning I was in a meeting where the top guys in the mining industry was, and I said that what we produce and what you crush, aggregate and sand, most probably aggregate in most cases, is the most mined mineral in the world. And everybody sort of can't believe that I say that it's the most mined mineral in the world. So yeah, that's unfortunately how it works.
Yeah.
Okay, can you tell me some of the challenges you are experiencing that you see that are there, except COVID? We don't want to talk about COVID, but what are some of the challenges? Most probably the fact that we're not taking offers, which we should be taking off, but just from your point of view, your business perspective.
I mean, there are many of them. It's part of our daily lives to manage them. It's political challenges, social challenges. There's many we don't have enough time to get through them. But the major ones that we find is challenging, or that we feel every single day, is lack of finance. Players that get jobs often have a good, strong contract, and they're a reasonably strong company, and they're going to probably meet all their payment requirements, but the balance sheet might be a bit strained, or they've reached their limits on banking, credit, call it, and they just can't get finance. And I think it's quite a competitive market, so the competitors tend to offer some form of finance, and often it sets companies up for failure. But that is a big challenge for us as potential customers, contractors, mines, operations, aggregates, battling to get finance for machines. I think it's made worse by the fact that the economy hasn't been great and people haven't been making too much money, and that there hasn't been much growth. But there are good jobs and there are good companies that are challenged in terms of finance. So that's a big challenge. I think BEE and the challenges around that are very real, and we live with them every day. We've done a lot of work to trying to become more and more compliant, and it seems every time we get somewhere, the goalposts change, and we end up, the biggest thing is about ownership, and it's very difficult to sell a privately owned company that you worked your whole life for, unless there's some return on it. And that's a big challenge that we have, and there's no workarounds. We certainly don't get involved in fronting or anything like that. We've absolutely been strict on it. We won't do it. It has obviously it's affected some of our jobs, but it's something we're challenged with. It's very difficult, or it's hard to get my head around the fact that we are an exporter. We design products, build them in South Africa, ship them all over the world, ship them into Africa. And then when it comes to a local sale, we get challenged because our ownership is not compliant, or our BBB status is not quite right, where we've got a beautiful training program that's seen people go through right up to management level. We try and source, I forget the terminology, but we try and source from BE compliant companies. And it's a challenge. So we compete with local companies that are or level ones or whatever, that are bringing imported machines in. So they're actually not really doing anything for our economy or growth or manufacturing, but they are compliant, and that's what we compete against. So it's almost that, and it feels like it's unfair and it's challenging. And although the intent is good, and some of the ideas are good, in reality it's challenging, and it's not always, the end result is not what is expected or desired. So that's a big challenge. Resources, human resources, a challenge. We've lost about, I think it's 5 highly skilled technical staff members in the last year. 3 have gone to Australia, and 2 have gone to New Zealand. So that's a big challenge. These are guys that have been with us for 5 or 10 years, have been in our industry for 20, 30 years, and they're gone, and they're not coming back. And it's impossible to replace in the short term. So that's another big challenge that I know a fair amount of our customers have had the same thing, and competitors and suppliers, same thing, losing very valuable, experienced resources to Australia, New Zealand, Canada, wherever else they might go. Big challenge. Nico, you're on mute. I'm not hearing you. Your mic's on mute.
Yes, I think the problem we're having with skills being lost, I see we're losing a lot in the road building industry, and they've all gone to Australia, New Zealand. When it's going to end,
Yeah, I think COVID slowed it down a bit, but I think it'll resuscitate again. You know, and it's a big problem. I think the magnitude of it is just not appreciated. How big a problem it really is.
I've got a son who's in New Zealand. He's been there a year now, and he's most probably one of the highest qualified paramedics that you can find. Sits with a master's degree and comes out of the chopper when he rescues you, and he's gone. He'll never come back to South Africa because they don't pay you. You know, so we sit with the problem, and we'll only see him maybe once or twice in 2 or 3 years. So yeah, it's sad, but that's his life. He has to go and choose it somewhere else.
Yeah, agreed. You know, there's, in every case where, you know, when we've had the guys leaving us, I couldn't say you've got to stay here. It's more, you know, how do you keep people? It's about families and safety and security.
Yeah, and the salaries are huge over there when you compare it to what we pay here. Some of the positive experiences, views maybe that you see into the future. Some days one feels there's no positive stuff, and then other days one sort of thinks, okay, no, it is positive stuff. Maybe from your point of view as a businessman in South Africa, what's positive, and what do you see coming up in the next year or two as positive?
Again, as you say, it depends on the day. And today, for whatever I might have read or heard yesterday, is not a very positive day. It doesn't feel like there's much to be positive about. But certainly there are. I mean, I think for our company and our industry, I think we're a bit lucky. When I talk about mining, on the mining side, I think we're quite lucky and we're in a good space, because I think mining doesn't seem to have been as badly affected by all the lockdowns and COVID as certainly aggregates. So that's a positive. We're going to finish our year well in February, but we're looking towards not a bad year, only 20% down on last year, which I think is a great achievement considering what's happened and the fact that 2 months were completely lost. Export potential is still good in South Africa. What other positives? I think in the aggregates, I mean, we are seeing, as far as I'm hearing, the home improvement market is very buoyant and booming. Our customers, our smaller customers that service that home market, smaller contracts, seem to be busy. They're very nice. So it's a nice story there that they seem to be busy. Not sure COVID seems to have caused that. Don't know why. I can't understand why everybody suddenly wants to build their houses or fix their houses, but that seems to be what I'm hearing. The bigger contracts, you know, it's positive if SANRAL gets going with their contracts or issuing awards. Obviously, for our industry, road making and aggregates, it's a big one. So there's lots of talk about it, but we're not seeing it filtering through. So at this stage, it's not yet a positive, but I hope that's a positive that comes through. Obviously, the concern is, again, if there's intent to get going with it all, but is there money to pay for it? Beyond me. I think, what else? Yeah, I mean, economically, it's going to be challenging, but we're coming from such a low base now that I think we'll grow. So if you've survived it, I think the next year or two, we should see some growth, even though it might be negative compared to a few years ago. But if you've survived what we've been through the last 2 or 3 years, hopefully we grow here. I see that as a small positive. And just generally the will of people and how good South Africans are at adapting. It's still a positive, and we'll make the plan. We'll get there.
Yeah. I think just to add to yours, I'm stuck in a little town called Dahlstrom. And after the lockdown was sort of lifted up to most probably level 1 or 2, the guys all started building and painting and fixing. It was quite phenomenal. I thought, yo, what's happening here? And then the second thing is we had Dr. Rudolf Botha talk with Andries van Heerden a while ago, a month ago or 3 weeks ago, and it's all positive. It's like a V, but the V is climbing so quick and big that it makes one feel a bit, something is happening, because he doesn't work on what he thinks, he works on figures that he gets. So that was very interesting. So, But I think your business is, the problem is it takes a while before somebody is going to go and buy a new crusher. It's like the guys who sell tractors, they're all battling. So it'll take a while, but I'm sure in the beginning of the year, in 2021, we'll see a nice climb. I believe that. I really do. So yeah. I think COVID did us quite good in a certain way. Those who didn't make it were not going to make it. And guys like you who were going to make it, you've made it, so that's the point.
Yeah, I think I did watch the talks of Andries and Dr. Meyer, and it was positive, and it made me think about certain things in a different way. I think the whole psyche around the home improvement, I think so psychologists got to work that one out. I don't know if any economists can work it out. It's more of a psychological thing, I think. But yeah, we do see, it seems like we've seen it. I think in the aggregates industry, I think the capacity hasn't been at full capacity. So if we do have some growth, it's going to get absorbed into capacity, and then hopefully will lead to some new investments. But there are some challenges. We do know of some players that have had to retrench and shut down some operations. So, that again, it'll take a while for that capacity to get absorbed, and then hopefully will result in some capital expenditure again in the industry. But yeah, we've got a good offering. Our mining's strong. It has COVID did make us review all our budgets, and we'll certainly be down on revenue, but hopefully we'll be up on profit, having managed the expenses and operational costs very well. I think we've done a great job at that. So hopefully we'll make more money than we did last year, even though our revenue was less.
Great. That's very positive. And then just short before we lock off, we've got a few seconds left or minutes left. Just your view about Aspaza and how the industry needs to be pulled together or not, and then maybe in 2021 we can do some training together and work on that. So maybe just to close off.
Sure. I mean, Aspaza is extremely active. I mentioned to you a little while ago that you guys really doing a lot, and obviously it's more of you're looking after the manufacturers of aggregate and sand, not so much suppliers, but we're on the outside and I see what's going on, and not everything's relevant to us. But I think I've seen one of the initiatives I recall seeing earlier this year, and I think it was before the COVID stuff started, was the construction mafia, or the so-called construction mafia, and the role you had played. I think you guys had brought together some mining players. I know I actually referred one of my mining customers to you guys and to get you guys together because they'd had similar problems in the mine where they were being held to ransom for certain things. So I think that's a very, very important policy that you guys have been working on. I think that's fantastic because the industry can't carry on with it. Yeah. Obviously, health and safety, you guys have done great jobs. I mean, half the COVID policies and half the COVID stuff that we used within our company came from you guys.
Thanks.
So you were very forward with it and very early with it. I mean, as I said, a lot of the stuff we adopted and used here came from, even though we're not mining and crushing, we still adapted it. So I think you're very active, and I know we've discussed it before. I'd love to see a big challenge with us going forward is having the certification of like technicians for different mines. We've discussed it before. Our guys, our service technicians have got to be, if they're not the healthiest, they've got to be the most tested people in the whole country. Because every time they go to a mine, they have to undergo medicals, and they have to undergo new inductions. And I'd love to see some kind of industry standardization, or some place where a guy can go for a medical once a year or twice a year, can get inducted in safety in most of the mines things, and that we don't have to send people for 2-3 day inductions, which is very, very costly to the industry. Surely we know that safety is priority number one, but it would be wonderful if we could come up with something that addresses the safety but keeps the costs of inducting people and the time frames and the medical costs within reason. Because at the end of the day, the mines pay for it, the consumer pays for it. It's costing us a lot of money. And I feel that there's got to be some way now that we have some standardized system where we can get things, a person signed off once a year or twice a year, and you can then move an ID document or a green ticket. I'm not sure. So that's a great, that's something I'd love to see us working on. But yeah, very active and appreciative that you're there and driving us all and keeping us all together, and your efforts of getting different people, letting the industry know what's happening, has been great. I'm not sure if there's too many other industries that are doing it, so very happy.
Thank you very, very much. I think just to tie in before I close down, we had a suppliers committee, and that fell flat a bit with the COVID story. We had a meeting scheduled, but we couldn't hold it. And I think what you've just said is that in 2021, I will start that again. And maybe what you've said now is to get some way of getting people certified to a certain point before they go to a mine, and there they just do the specific things for that mine. But generally, they are trained. So I will work on that. It's an excellent idea. I actually forgot about it. But let's push that in the new year and ask you to participate in it and so forth, because that could save you a lot of money. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's you know, we pass those costs on to the mine anyway, so it saves the mines or the contractors working for the mines money. And obviously, safety mustn't be compromised, but got to find some way, because really our guys spend half the week sitting in an office being inducted for the 14th time this month.
That's stupid. I've been to some of those induction programs, and I slept through them because they were so bloody boring. Because they think you don't understand what's going on. So one must try and find a way. But thanks for your thanks for your time. Again, I apologize for having to redo it, but I think it went better this time.
Hopefully.
And
the sad thing in this country is, especially on sort of the positive and mood side, is a week makes a world of difference. A day makes a difference. So you can be really up one day, and then all of it the next morning you hear something and it's like, oh my word, here we go again. It's challenging. But yeah, thanks a million. Thanks for letting me engage. And I think it's almost time of the year to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and hopefully the best New Year they've had so far. And thank you.
Thank you, and go well. And you're going away, and enjoy your holiday. And
thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Sandro.
Cheers. Bye.
Okay. Bye.